Okay. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are so excited that you guys are here.
Welcome. Yes, I'm excited to share this information with you today. It's going to be so fun and amazing, and we have some interactive stuff, and so glad that you're here with us live. Thanks.
Awesome. So we want to make sure that you are in the right place. So we are going to be talking about the 3 seldom talked about business accelerators that lead to both fun and profit.
Because we like them both.
We like them both. So, and again, as you're joining us, we're going to be using just the chat, not the Q&A. So make sure that you open your chat. If you haven't introduced yourself yet, please do. It's always really fun for us to know who's here in the room with us and where you're joining us from. And, we will do our best to make it as interactive as possible. So we love having that.
Beautiful.
So a few things to get started.
Of course. So I love this little tag. I'm in the process of changing my life. Please do not disturb. So turn off distractions, especially other things on your computer. Shut down your phone or other things that you have turned on. Did I turn mine off? Yeah. That do not disturb sign on your door, and grab a pen and paper. We're going to share a lot of really cool stuff, and you'll probably want to take notes.
Yes, absolutely. And Anne, it's great to have you. And of course, we will share with you as much as we can in the time that we have. And we're aiming for about 90 minutes. Jean and I do like to pack in a lot of stuff in a short period of time, which is very likely that we might go over, but we are doing our best. So just know that that's sort of our intention. And of course, if you want to continue to play and prosper with us, we'll have a special offer and tell you all about it at the end. And of course, we'll also have a fabulous gift for those of you that stay with us until the end as well.
Beautiful. So our intentions for this class, first of all, is that you understand these 3 accelerators to running a successful and profitable business.
The second one is to give you actionable play prompts that you can implement like right now. So you're going to get to do a little activity with us and play with us, and then hopefully you can take those and practice them outside.
Give you permission to run your business in this fun and easy way.
Which is such a big thing because as I'm finding, I just finished a mastermind and we had a whole lot of conversation about how so often we don't give ourselves permission to receive and to make things easy and fun. And so that's a very big thing. Then we also want you to feel how these aligned strategies can actually impact your business and your life.
And then give you all the next steps to do that, continuing with us with deep support.
So
let's dive in. I know.
Let's get started. Woo! I love that.
I added that just for you.
I know. I love it. It's a nice little surprise. She's surprising me even up as we go.
So have you ever had an idea of owning a creative business that paid you well and gave you plenty of time to create?
And if you have, just type yes in the chat. We'd love to hear about it. And then if you did a reality check in your head and then you were like, oh yeah, like that's not going to work, right? Like, so you'd be like, oh, this is a great idea. And then you're like, yeah, that's not going to work.
Or you tried some things here and there to market your product only to end up in debt and not really getting any traction.
Which is really frustrating. Or maybe questioned your creative ability because you were selling very little. Like sometimes people say like, maybe this is not the right thing because I'm not really making the progress I want to be making.
Right. Or have you ever started your business, got it going, but just weren't making a living out of it? Most entrepreneurs are making less than $20,000 a year.
Which is kind of sad. Yes, and yes. Okay, I'm seeing. Or try to make decisions for your business and then got stuck or overwhelmed and all of the, I don't know where to even start or what to do or what's the next thing.
Exactly. Or maybe decided on a course of action, but it simply didn't pan out after you tried it.
Maybe you took a class to help you grow your list, but then it didn't work. Maybe it's a class for something else and then it didn't work for you.
Or hired a coach who did not help move your business forward. And then you felt worse about yourself after that.
Because we tend to blame ourselves about things that don't work, right?
Yeah.
And then usually when any of these things happen, or if a few of these things have happened for you, then we end up feeling tired and discouraged. And then we think, well, maybe I just should give up on my business. Maybe other people around you say, maybe you just need to give up. You've been at it for a while and it's clearly not going to happen. So you should just go get a job.
Yes, it is very sad. And the reality check, I kind of started to mention this before, of course, is that 50% of unemployed adults are unhappy and unfulfilled in their careers.
Employed.
Employed. Did I say unemployed?
Yes.
Did I say employed? Employed. Unemployed, employed.
I'm sure unemployed ones are not very happy. Out of 8 out of 10 entrepreneurs fail, which I think is kind of a really sobering statistic to kind of keep in mind.
Yeah, and 2 out of 3 businesses fail. And 80% of those entrepreneurs, even if the business is going, they crash and burn because they're overwhelmed or don't have the tools they really need to grow their business.
Or they're basically working way too hard to try to make it grow, right? A lot of times what happens is that we end up trading time for money. And then we get stuck in that paradigm. So then there's usually a cap, and then we start feeling enslaved to our business as well.
Right. And it's been predicted that business as usual will be dead in the next 10 years, which is an interesting commentary. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But ultimately, you know what? Here's the deal. We can totally relate, because all those things, like, we've been there, like, seriously, in deep ways. And we've both dreamed of sustainable creative businesses where we knew what to do, did it, and made a fabulous living at it, and free time to boot.
And then we get to have free time to come together and play together. So you may have seen a couple of our pictures together where we actually have spent, we started doing just this online thing that then we just try to spend as much time in person as well, because it's so fun.
We've been in a lot of states together.
Yeah. So, in the end, because we have experienced this, we felt like part of our mission, both of us, is that we really want to help other people get to run businesses both intuitively and profitably, because that is the easy way to do it.
Exactly. So we wanted to share a little bit about ourselves and who we are, and to give you a little bit of background. I know some of you know us.
Yes, I know that some of you know us. And again, if you just joined us or joined us late, we are going to be using the chat to be communicating rather than the Q&A. So we'd love for you to just pop in there and just introduce yourself, or just to comment on the things that you're relating to, or have things that you're having, or questions that come up, because Jean and I love to make this as interactive and as real as possible. So, if you're willing, we'd love to know who you are and get to hear from you. So I'm going to take a moment and introduce sort of like the paper Jean, and then and then she will tell you sort of the story Jean, if that makes sense. So Jean is an amazing intuitive business strategy mentor. She is a game developer and a play coach. So everything that she does is always so much fun. Like, part of the reason why we co-create together so much is that she is just so much fun, and it has that natural ability to activate that in people. She is an intuitive artist, so she does sell her art as well. She's an international speaker, a spiritual guide. She's has all of these certifications and all kinds of different modalities. She's also a mom, and she's also a dog lover to her adorable dog Razzle, which we may or may not hear, but she's very much a part of things.
The last time we had a thing, she was totally on her squeaky toy, so I think she's locked out of the room today.
Oh, perfect.
But I always mention Razzle because often you'll meet her later. So I do want to tell you a little bit about how I got here and how that how it rolled out in that, what we talked about, we can relate. I started out in a corporate career. I worked in accounting. That was what I did. I mentioned, Elena mentioned I'm a mom. I have 2 kids, and it's interesting about looking back at your careers and then where you land up, because we were doing okay. We were in some sense of the word, we were comfortable, but we never had quite enough. It was always kind of uncomfortable. And I put the little shopping cart on here because I remember very clearly putting those 2 kids into the cart and pushing them around the grocery store. And then at the same time, adding up everything I was putting into the cart, because I could only go, this is how much I can spend.
Right.
And, the kids are like, I want this, I want that. I'm like, oh my gosh. And
I'm trying to sneak it into the cart.
Exactly. That is the version of total stress in the world. Like when there's not quite enough, that is, you have to be a genius to run your life that way, because it can be really, really hard. And so along the way, I was teaching transformation. I had taken all these courses, and I had learned coaching, and I'd learned these things, and I was teaching those classes, and people would say, oh, that's so amazing. And I'd go to a big church group or a women's group, and I'd be teaching this, and they say, that's so cool. And they'd say, how much do you charge for this? And I'd be like, oh, you know what? I don't charge for that, because it was just so fun and easy. Can anyone relate?
How many of you have felt like you needed to give away your knowledge or talents for free?
Yeah.
It just was fun or easy.
Exactly. And so I invented a game along about that time, and I thought that would be really cool to put out there. But I got so stuck in my head about how do you do all this stuff, and how do you produce something, how do you make it go, that although I was playing with it and people really loved it, I didn't know what to do. So I hired a coach, and unfortunately she wasn't exactly aligned to what I needed to do. And ultimately I gave up. She was telling me, do it this way, this way, this way. And it felt so yucky to me that I just couldn't do it. And so I just put it away and said, you know what, I'm just going to paint, hang out. I just can't do this. And ultimately, after a couple of years of that soul sucking, right? You're like, it's pulling you somewhere. I hired a coach who really got me, right? And who let me find that clarity and do a mindset shift that allowed me to really, truly be what I wanted to be. And one day she said, so what do you want to do? And I'm like, I just want to play a game. And she kind of laughed at the time, but then she's like, and when I described what I invented, she's like, oh, that's really cool.
It's brilliant. It's not just really cool. It's brilliant.
And so, that is the way, that was my path to flow. And it was kind of a long path. It took me a while. But this is, now looking back at it, I'm like, wow, what it took on my own, really, to try to get through all that was extraordinary. Yet with some help, it moved out relatively quickly.
Which is so huge, though, like having the help. And please, as you're hearing some of either our story or stories that we share about our clients, we'd love to hear, like, if you're relating to them, if you can see yourself in them, or if there's parts of that you relate to, because I think that, part of it is that a lot of times people are like, oh, well, you guys already are doing blah, blah, blah. And, we want to share these stories because it's part of, like, letting you know, like, we've been in that spot where things weren't super great, and so that there's a way to be able to get to a better place.
Exactly. So I'll introduce the paper, Elena. Elena is a high performance psychologist. She's incredibly knowledgeable about all areas of neuroscience, about how the brain works and all those really super brainiac things. She's an intuitive prosperity business mentor. She's a spiritual mentor and healer, also certified in all kinds of really cool and interesting things. She is a multi-six-figure business owner. She owns both a brick and mortar business as well as an online business. She is also an international speaker, best-selling author, this is really cool. If you haven't seen her stuff online and gone to her Facebook group, our Facebook page, and seen some of her posts, she is an aerial dancer, and it's really awesome. And a cat lover. So we have the cats and the dogs covered.
I mean, we're really animal lovers, but you
yes,
know.
it's true.
So I'm going to share a little bit about just my story. I actually came also from, I was working at a university. So when I first finished my PhD, I got hired by the university, and I was working 50 plus hours. I was completely overworked, underpaid, underappreciated, and started getting incredibly burnt out, much to the point that I actually started questioning whether I had made the right choice in choosing this career. You know, I mean, it only took me 10 years to get my PhD, you know, and I was like, maybe this is all a mistake. So I was like really doubting. And then all of a sudden I realized that maybe it wasn't the thing, but maybe it was the environment, that maybe it was the setting, and that maybe I just needed to find a different way to do business. Now it's taken me a long time to really own this, but I've realized that at the core of who I am not a psychologist. I'm an artist. I'm a creator, you know, and I love to create. I love to be creative, to have freedom and autonomy to do the things that I want to do. And I don't always do the same thing. I'm always creating and iterating things. This is what keeps me alive. So the idea of me doing the same thing day in and day out for the next 20 or 30 years was just like, there's no way. So I started my own business. I had no idea what the hell I was doing. Really, they give you all kinds of training about lots of things, and you guys may relate, you know, if you have any certifications or trainings, you know, we pay to learn all these things, but somehow they never teach you how you actually turn that into a revenue generating business, right? So they teach you all the stuff about how to blah, blah, but not how to make money, right? So I really struggled. And eventually, you know, I actually took several courses. Probably spent, I don't know, probably in excess of $100,000 in different courses, coaches, masterminds. But I finally hired a coach and joined a mastermind that really felt aligned for me and really helped me to be able to have the support so that I could really grow into myself and then eventually like grow my practice. So this was a picture taken a couple years ago of like in front of our center, you know, with our staff, which was really nice. And so for me, it was recognizing that when you have the right support and you have the right environment and you have this spaciousness to be you and to create in the way that you ought to be creating, that then you can really create magic. And I'll share this little piece because it's been kind of fascinating for me to even identify my own journey, that when I first started actually charging for what I do, my very first time that I started charging, I was charging $20 an hour. And of course, this was many years ago. But again, it's kind of one of those things, like kind of like what you just said, Jean, about like, oh, that's nothing, you know, just, you know. And I even had like clients be like $20, you know, and then they were like, okay, that was worth $20, you know, and it was like, it just felt so crappy, you know. And so kind of realizing that I started there to like now where I have like, I have a couple clients that were $50,000 clients, you know, and I had no problem in actually enrolling them and saying, here's what I do. And so just and of course that didn't happen overnight, but it's like the up leveling that we do as we grow ourselves and we stretch ourselves is that then as we expand our context, our business grows. So happy, free, and in flow, right? And we get to do what we love, which I think is so important.
Exactly. So ultimately you get to benefit from our mistakes. It sounded like a long journey, right? And that's where it rolled for us. And so I'm really excited that we get to share this information with you today, because it allows you to lead with creativity, passion, and innovation.
To kind of had head, heart, and spirit working together. And some of you have heard that know us or have worked with us know that this is so important in terms of really integrating all pieces. It's not just your head or your heart, or like it's all of you.
Exactly. And then use collaboration and support. I think that that's a really new way of the world. This is where we're going. We crave this, and we want to run businesses this way.
And what we mean here is not just, this is not just about hiring coaches necessarily or joining masterminds, but while we're not going to go super in depth about it here, like that part of the shift in the world is that we're shifting from the masculine to the feminine, and the feminine is a lot more collaborative, and it's about really, rather than competing, it's about collaborating, right? And so Jean and I, in some ways, we're modeling that as we are, we both do similar things. And in some ways we could say, people would say we are in direct competition with each other. Yet we feel like, no, we can really support each other by collaborating and joining our gifts and talents in, creating and providing things that make a difference in a bigger way.
And of course, speeding up your success and accelerating your journey. Like that's what we can do inside of this container.
So we discovered that there are 3 things that make that happen. And so those are the 3 things that we're going to be sharing with you today. And some things you might be like, oh, yes, that resonates. I knew that. And some of those things would be like, oh, I never thought about thinking about it together in this way. So we absolutely want to be hearing from you about what's speaking to you and resonating for you.
Beautiful.
So I'm going to get started with the very first accelerator, and I think that this will make sense to you. The first of it is using neuroscience and high performance mindset techniques, both for you, but also for your clients. So amazingly is that most of us are actually impacted by the reactivity of our brains. We have all kinds of things that we have experienced as kids and growing up, and limiting beliefs and blah, blah, blah. And so if we don't understand how all of those things are actually calling the shots and playing a role in the results that we are creating in our current reality, then we tend to get blindsided by them. So neuroscience is not just for scientists, obviously, right? Because the more that we understand it, then the better grasp we can have and the greater impact that we can have, not just in our lives, but in the lives of our clients. It helps you to understand how to lower your reactivity, right? So that we're not like going into fight or flight. But as you learn how to lower that for you, then you also can become a mirror for your clients. Right? So as you're having enrollment conversations and sales conversations, then you can think about like, how can I lower that reactivity in my clients so that I can establish trust as well? So I'm talking about this in regards to you, but then again, because we are mirrors, we're always mirroring this to our clients. Rewiring your brain of all those patterns, transforming negative beliefs. And some of you probably have heard me talk about this. I really believe in the word transform rather than fight or change or anything like that, because in some ways, everything is energy. So we need to be able to like release the energy that we're holding up and then transform it into something else. And Jean, feel free to jump in if there's something that you want to.
Yeah, I'm very excited about this, because although I am not a PhD in high performance psychology, I totally understand how I have seen Elena transform, situations and conversations in minutes, in things that, just because you understand how to rewire this situation. So it's pretty exciting.
And, this is something that I haven't talked much about. I started talking about like, this is not just about you, but about being a mirror to your clients. And so I'm going to talk about it a little bit from the energetic standpoint, is that we usually attract to us people that are vibrating at the same level And, I think about like we attract to us people that we have something to teach, or we attract people that have something to teach us, or both. Right. And so a lot of times, people that come into your field might be people that resemble you, like 2 years ago or 3 years ago or 5 or 10. So you're no longer there, but there is an aspect of your energetic signature that at some point was there and that they were able to resonate with and felt intrigued by. And so when you learn to basically love all of you and integrate all of you and know what your negative beliefs are and all of that, then you can respond to them with that openness, right? And you can then use that to increase your sales, and not from a manipulative way, but from a place of love and resonance and service, which I think it's really beautiful. So there's basically 4 components to what I think it's the high performance mindset. And certainly there's many subcomponents under each of these things, but I'm not going to go into them because last time I did, we ended up being here forever. So, but I'm going to at least just give you that so that you have a sense. So the first piece is self-awareness or self-knowledge. Some of you, if you guys have worked on any personal development, you know that you cannot change anything that you don't see, right? If you have a blind spot, it's called a blind spot for a reason. And so when you develop that self-awareness is the first piece for you to be able to begin to change or transform anything. The second of it is perspective, recognizing that everything is filtered through our perspective. And so that ultimately everything that we experience, it is filtered through our perspective, and then we have an interpretation, which normally we think of that as a story. And we tend to believe that our stories are real. And when we start understanding that our stories are just a story, it is just one perspective, and there might be a lot of them about the same situation, you start widening the way in which you see yourself, you see others, and you see the world. The third one is really looking at what are the beliefs, both conscious and unconscious, and it's usually the unconscious that are driving the bus, that are creating results. And so love to hear, or if you post in the chat, if you ever have noticed that you are taking the right actions, right? Like you're doing the right things that you think that you need to be doing, but then you're not really getting the results that you were expecting. If that's ever happened to you, usually it comes back to some kind of limiting belief that you might not be fully conscious or aware that's happening, that it's actually energetically running the results that you're creating. And then the last part is the mental habits that we create. So we are all creatures of habit. And so we tend to create habits around all kinds of things, including the way that we think, the way that we talk, the way that we interpret things, the way that we make stories, et cetera, et cetera. So the more that we start recognizing what those are and then beginning to make those shifts, everything starts shifting in a major way.
I love all that so much, because it really is about opening up then the results that you get because of this slight shift in how you act.
So if you, and again, if you, if you can relate to that, we'd love to hear. One of the things that I really love is that we tend to say, well, if things would just change, if this would be different, well, if so-and-so would do this, or blah, 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 right? Like how many times have you caught yourself doing that? Like, we do that all the time. But if you can start recognizing that all of those things change, they start inside of you. Like the change starts happening inside of you, which is really, really empowering. You don't have to wait until something else happens outside of you. You can start shifting it by how you're looking at it from the start. So I wanted to share a little bit about a little story, a little case study. And this is not his real name, but I also would love to hear if this is something that you relate to. right? He said, nope. Before we started, when we first started working together, he was really overwhelmed. Everything was very random. So there was no rhyme or reason about why he did something. There was definitely like haphazard efforts about how he was doing things. And there's no unifying strategy in the way in which he was going about what he was doing. Therefore, he wasn't seeing the results that he wanted. And then it was coming back to like, I can't do it. I don't know. It's too much. It feels wrong. Like he was just really doubting himself, right? And then all of those, I call them gremlins, all of the negative beliefs and all of those gremlins like started crawling, and I don't know if you can relate, like all of a sudden when something starts going not so well and you start talking badly and then all of a sudden you start kind of being taken over by like the gremlins, and then pretty soon you're like kind of in that pool of, and then he'd go from like, he'd switch, he'd go back and forth from like just feeling like he couldn't and he was doubting himself to being like, okay, well, I just need to, and then kind of switched to kind of that overconfident, like, I got it, like, I just need to. And then he was like really like the hard selling, like, which obviously would put people off because it wasn't his real self, right? That he was just trying to overcompensate. And then that was pretty clear for most people. And energetically, they were like, dude, no, so awesome. You can relate to some of the gremlins. Yeah. We all have them, by the way. Okay. So I don't want to make anybody be like, no, we all have them. So it's just kind of helpful to start recognizing like, what are your gremlins? We all have. Anyway, after we started working together and looking through all of this mindset stuff, he started getting through like, just having more fun and ease, because he actually started creating a system where he could feel really aligned and a core strategy that he could follow. So now he wasn't trying to do 10 gajillion things. He was just trying to do like, 3 to 5 things. And then those were his go-tos, 3 to 5 things that he just knew exactly what to do, when to do them, which led to greater confidence. So this is something that I love to say here, because a lot of creative people, this was something that used to happen to me, are super resistant of having any kind of system or structure, and I don't know if you relate to this, but I used to be like, it's like, I don't know, it's like, it's damping my creativity, like, structure doesn't work for me, blah, blah, blah. But the reality of it is that once I figured out, once you have a system and once you have a structure that works for you, it actually frees you up. And it gives you more time to do what you are here to do, which is actually what happened to him. And then he became more confident. He was a little bit more congruent, more aligned with who he was, which then became a lot more attractive to his clients. And his business totally grew in a big, big way. And so it's kind of fascinating for me to see that sometimes, simple shifts can make a huge difference.
Well, exactly. And I think that really this important piece is that it's not just systematic in the business. It was systematic in his thought patterns.
Absolutely.
Right. That's really what shifted.
Yeah.
Was him being aware of what showed up, and then being, using those structures of getting rid of the gremlins and then living into his heart.
Totally. Well, because when we look at it, and actually some other people in my mastermind were talking about it earlier, about they're haphazard and inconsistent, not because they don't know what they are supposed to do, is that they start doubting themselves. Those gremlins start showing up, and then they start telling themselves that they don't know what to do, or they start telling themselves like, it's not going to make a difference, or nobody's really going to watch or look or read or whatever that is, right? And then it's like, oh, why bother, right? And then that's kind of the whole little spiral that happens, right? Instead of when you really get to have this more consistent thought pattern and create different mental habits, then usually translate to different actions.
I love this exercise. Yep. So we're going to teach you one of these things about minds.
Yeah.
Neuroscience. You're going to learn neuroscience today.
So we're going to do a little exercise, and of course, love to hear if you relate to Jack or not. But for a moment, I just want you to, if you're taking notes, just put your pencil or pen down, and I want you to just take a nice deep breath in and exhale. And if you need to do another one, do another one. I just want you to kind of get a little bit grounded. Jean took such a big breath that it made her yawn. So know that sometimes when we are oxygen deprived, when we take big breaths, it makes us yawn. Anyhow, so here's what I want you to do. I want you to look around your room, wherever you're at, and I want you to just start making a mental note of all of the things in your environment around you that are white. Which is really fascinating because every time I do this exercise, I'm like, wow, I didn't realize there was so much white in my room. So really notice, make a mental note about all of the things that are white in your room. And then once you've kind of made a mental note of all of those things, I would like for you to close your eyes so that you can no longer look at the stuff. And now I want you to start listing or picturing in your mind all of the green items that you noticed as you scanned your environment. So I want you to kind of just make a little mental note of how many green items you noticed. And then just put in the chat, 1, 2, 5, 0. Yeah, a lot of times people are like, green? What the hell? Are you changing the game on me? What are you doing? So, just post in the chat how many. Okay, Elaine, none. Good.
So actually, there was one, because right next to my white printer, there's this green plant. And so that kind of stuck with me for a moment, but yeah, nothing else.
Was 3. Okay, great. Awesome. And it's none. Right. So great. And she's like, I didn't get any. I wasn't looking. Great. So this is part of the point of this exercise. Part of what this exercise is meant to show you is that we all have this little part in our brain that it's called the reticular activating system. And you don't need to remember that. You could just remember it as the RAS. Okay. And the reticular activating system in our brain, basically it's like the little antenna that follows your instructions. So whatever instruction you give it, then it gets really focused to look for that, right? So when you say, I don't know, or I'm confused, or I'm not good enough, or who am I to be doing stuff? Guess what your RAS is doing? It starts looking for every piece of evidence to confirm that to be true. And just like all of the green items that you did not see, then it totally misses. It's like those things don't even exist, right? Then you don't even get a hold of them. So now that you have your eyes open, you might scan your room and you might start looking for how many green things were there that I actually missed? And you will probably start realizing that there was a lot more green in your environment that you noticed, right? So I just simply want you to remember this white noise exercise, especially every time that you are beginning to beat yourself up or get down on yourself, and then thinking about finding all the evidence, right? And so get into this exercise and then put your scientist hat and then say, how about if I was to tell myself that I am the expert at this thing? What are all the pieces of evidence that I can find in my environment that can confirm that I am truly an expert at this?
That's amazing. And, it's so funny. Okay, so exactly about what you're talking about. As soon as you said RAS, you know where I went? I went to The Princess Bride and the RUS. The rodents of unusual size.
I love it. And of course you would mention that. I don't know that you know this, but that's my favorite movie of all times. It's so funny. You're like, of course. I went to The Princess Bride. I'm like, hello.
Oh, see, now I've tainted you forever. She's going to talk about neuroscience forever, and she's going to think about The Princess Bride.
And it's like my RAS is very good at it. It hyper focuses. Yes. I think most of ours, right? So, and you can think about this is anytime that you want to buy a car, maybe all of a sudden you start noticing all the cars for sale, or, every time you want to buy a house or rent an apartment, and all of a sudden you think like, oh, everybody's like, well, those things were already there. They have always been there in the same, you just weren't noticing them. And the moment that you said, this is what I'm going to look for, there it is. This is the reason why gratitude exercises work so powerfully, is because when we start looking for things to be grateful for, then we find more and more things. So we're going to move on.
And so accelerator number 2. So this is the way to accelerate your business. And it's the most unintuitive way that most people think, but it's actually open your intuition through play and access it consistently.
That's the key.
So intuition opens portals to magic. And so it has you stop asking everyone else, what is the thing you need to do, right? You get to stop looking outside of you and start listening to your own wisdom. So so we have actually invented a proven system to help you connect and access your intuition. It's called the Intuitive Advantage. And actually we're not here to talk about that today, but what we want to say is that there's some really cool things you get in your business for opening your intuition.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So keep going.
I'll go. So when you apply and integrate your own intuitive guidance to your process of building your business, you become more joyful and effective. Mm-hmm. And so that's what starts to show up when you actually integrate intuition inside of your business.
And a lot of times, and some of you actually, did Intuitive Advantage, so you're very familiar with it. Some of you, may have no idea, but I think all of you know what intuition actually is. And so part of it is about recognizing that you already are intuitive. I have so many people that say, oh, I'm just not intuitive. Like, it's awesome that you're that intuitive, but I just don't have that. Okay. So I want you to hear, you have it. We all have it. It's just that whether we are tuned in and connected to it, or we've learned to disconnect from it. Right? So that partly is recognizing that that's already inside of you, and that you need to simply learn how to reconnect and how to practice it so that it gets more fluid for you.
And of course, as we mentioned in the first slide, the most important element is how to access it, right? Which we found the most effective way is through play. And so what we have discovered, though, is that it can be a little bit outside of the comfort zone to actually run an intuitive business, because we've been taught how to do business this way. And yet listening to our internal guidance is a little bit, there's a learning curve.
Absolutely. So a lot of times we've been taught to be kind of disenchanted or distrustful of our intuition, and we think of intuition as like this voodoo spell thing, like it's fun and it's magic, but we tend to look at it not that way.
Right. And so we want to, then say, well, what's real, right? This is a really cool place for us to stand, because sometimes people use that as a weapon against us. Well, be real, right? And yet by stepping into the reality of who you are deeply and the truth inside of that, there is, I was going to say magic again, but there's all kinds of actually real world shifts and profit and business that runs from being real inside of you.
Mm-hmm. And I'm just going to say this, that because a lot of people talk about being real, but from a neuroscience perspective, it's also what allows your clients to be able to step into saying yes to working with you. Because when they see that honesty and realness, then we connect as real people, right? And most of us want to work with people that we feel are like us in some way, right? And so
And then, of course, the play zone. It opens up the play zone. Play has typically been a dirty word inside of work. And this is somewhere then that it allows you to be playful. And that opens more energy, more connection, higher vibration, all those things that actually attract the people to us, just like Elena was saying, because we're being our full-on, real, playful self.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious if any of you have had the experience where you felt like you needed to be doing work or working hard, and then you decided to blow it off and said, I'm just going to go play. I'm just going to go do something that I really like. I'm going to go sing or dance or paint or whatever that is for you. And then all of a sudden in that, then some amazing thing happened. Like some new opportunity opened up. So something that never happens to you, Elaine, like, that you actually allow yourself to play, or that some magic?
Yeah, no,
okay.
that, yeah.
I'm like, wait a second.
We're like, we know you sing and it's beautiful and fabulous and magic opens like in nature. I've heard you say that.
I'm like, wait a second. What?
And Lois, yes, you're playing every day in your art room. I know. Exactly. That's where that lives. And
That's
it is
awesome.
circular. Play activates intuition, and intuition opens up play. It is. It keeps, and so you have to just worm in. What comes first, the chicken or the egg?
Which I think it's part of that energetic flow, right? Which is so awesome. So I wanted to share, and some of you guys know Kimberly, but I wanted to share a little bit about her case in particular, because she is somebody that it was already a go-getter, but she was doing too much. So if you're familiar with Jean's Angels, Peacocks, and Butterflies, she's very much a peacock. She's a doer, right? Like, but she was doing too much in all different directions. And she had all these activities that were not really leading her anywhere. And so then she would get caught in overwhelm, because now she's got way too many things to do and, not sure about which direction to take. And so then she started doubting herself and lacking trust in what she was doing. She was definitely undercharging for her gifts and what she does and the transformation that she brings to people. And so she was thinking very small, and then constantly worried about money. Okay. So, and if you can relate to her, we'd love to hear about that in the chat. Because, we are sharing about some real people and some of the things that actually like happen for all of us. And one of the things must be talking about me too. I love that. It's great. It's great. This is important, right? That we relate. So one of the things that why we're sharing her case is that she was somebody that potentially you could say, well, like she is a doer, right? So sometimes we think that doers, we tend to idealize doers, like, oh, she's a doer. So but she was doing too much and kind of running herself ragged in circles and not really going anywhere. So the thing that really switched her business and made all of the difference was actually really working on her intuition. So it was really about becoming very aligned, getting really clear and focused, and realizing she's highly, highly intuitive. And that helped her then create a very aligned strategy. And obviously that helped target her activities. So I have this little example that I love to share, because at some point she had gone to so many networking meetings. She had a stack of cards. I don't kid you, this big. And she was like, well, I don't know, like I need to input all of these cards into the system and it's going to take so long. And I was like, okay, wait, before you go there, I said, just use your intuition and sort that stack and figure out who are actually people that you need to connect with, who are people you just need to chuck their cards in the garbage, and who are people that you need to connect with her. She's like, oh, I can do it that way? And I'm like, yeah. Took her like maybe 20 minutes, sorted through the things, threw away a whole bunch of stuff, and then made her life easier. right? And this is a tiny, tiny little example, but it's just a very tangible example of how it can help simplify stuff. She started progressing super, super quickly, and then quadrupled her fees. She's expanding her business. She's hired people to work under her. She's like really, really in flow. And it's only because she has kept to her daily practices. Like she has committed to doing those practices, and nothing gets in the way, and that keeps her in that space of manifesting.
Right, and that was a pretty short period of time too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, what's amazing about her is that she's literally gone from like zero. She quit her corporate job, so she went from making multiple six figures to zero, and she is now a year and a half later, almost as high as she did when she quit her job. She said multiple six figures and almost as high as she was making when she left, which in only like she's done in a year and a half what took me like 6 years to do, which is really amazing.
Well, that's what accelerators do, right?
Well, which is why we're talking about it, right? Like this, she's a perfect example of like, here's an accelerator of
right.
like, somebody that actually took this and really owned it.
So we do want to play a little bit today. We're not going to play the whole game, Angels, Peacocks, and Butterflies, although it is a pretty simple, fast process. But I do want to show you and share a little bit about opening your intuition with you, because everyone's intuitive and everyone will get an answer to this prompt. So what I'm going to do is just take each one of the there's 3 decks of cards. The first one is this angel deck. I'm going to go ahead and shuffle it up, see what's here for everyone today. That one.
Now.
Ooh. This is an interesting card. I pulled Mercy.
Ooh.
And Mercy is about loving the unlovable and forgiving the unforgivable.
Ooh.
And so this comes a lot, it speaks a lot to self-talk.
Yeah.
Because that's usually where that lives, because this is mercy for you. These are the things that you feel shameful or, or the gremlins in your head, the ones that tell you that you can't do it. So this is a call for mercy inside of you. So I'm just, I love that card.
And I want to repeat what you just said, because I think that's powerful, that loving the unlovable and forgiving the unforgivable. I think that just, that just gives me goosebumps.
Cool. All right. The next deck is our butterfly deck. Let's see what we got here for you.
That one.
Chakra 1, purpose in the world.
Of course.
Of course, I know. And the third deck is the peacock deck.
Yeah.
There we go. Communicating. All right, so now we fill out what we got on our little journal card, and it creates the beginning of a sentence that your brain cannot finish. The only way you can finish the sentence is by listening to your intuition and your higher self. And so I'm going to speak the sentence, and you are going to just listen for whatever pops in your head. You cannot do this wrong. And whatever pops in your head is the right answer. So here we go. I am mercy in my purpose in the world. Therefore, I'm communicating. I am mercy in my purpose in the world. Therefore, I'm communicating.
And I'd love for you to type whatever you get in the chat. I got love.
We're on the same place, Elena. I got totally communicating. It was a little different than love, but it was exactly the same sentiment. It was it was so fleeting, it popped out of my head. Hang on, let me get it. Connection and love.
That's awesome. And Anne, love. Elaine, love.
Love. Oh my gosh. Lois, spirit connection. Beautiful.
Love it. So we're all in that same beautiful space. And
that's what happens, of course, when you're in intuition in like-minded groups. You find that you will start actually linking arms together, and things start getting easier because you're in a like-minded people who amplify the energy around all of it. Totally. So I'm so glad that we had that little intuitive moment here.
It's a beautiful example, though, also of the amplification of the group and how beautiful that shows up when it's like it just feels so much truer, right? Like whenever you, like when you and I got together to create Intuitive Advantage, and I was like, here's what I'm getting. And you were like, yes, this is how I've gotten it. Right. And it was like the same. It's always like, oh, it's so powerful, like confirmation. And I think that that's exactly what happens. It just happened right now, which is so cool.
So thanks for playing.
So again, many of you already may know or have Jean's game, and of course we're not here to sell it, but I also want to say that if you don't know anything about her game and you want to play more or buy it, do reach out, and then we can get you connected about how you can get a game, because it's really fabulous.
Exactly. So moving along, though, I love that we're getting through it. I mean, this is really, I hope that this is really amazing stuff for you, because our goal was, of course, to give you some really deep value today, and I'm excited that we've been able to share all this with you. Mm-hmm. Accelerator 3.
So our third accelerator is actually being able to create soul-aligned business and marketing strategies that are unique to you. And while this seems like a no-brainer, it hardly ever happens. And so what we mean by this is that you get in full alignment both with your business and your marketing strategy, and that strategy can be totally unique to you. So Jean kind of talked about her experience of working with a coach that was saying you need to do things this way, and pushing her to do things this way. And so if you've had that experience, we'd love to hear. It never works, right? Because we tend to have immediately some resistance about doing it that way. And so the piece is about really connecting to what feels unique and aligned for you, and then take steps from that place.
So the strategy, of course, we've shown a little bit of a little stair-stepping thing that gives a little idea of how we kind of view this strategy. And yet we look at it like a game.
Of course.
So the
of
game,
course we do.
Exactly. The game of intuitive business is about really attaching to your intuition and then stepping into each one of the 7 steps of success, because every business has parts. And if you're missing parts, then it's difficult to move your business forward. But it allows us to really help you use that gaming kind of system to get into each one of those things. And we'll talk about a specific example in a second. But one of the things that's really important then is saying, does your business model itself work? Mm-hmm. Because that's inside of this. And that really is one of the number one things that I see happen inside businesses, is that the structure itself has not been set up from the beginning to be profitable.
Well, and the other piece, and I feel the need to mention this, is that a lot of times we also need to create a particular business model and business structure when we start our business. And as we evolve and grow, we need to change and evolve and change that structure. And so a lot of times we get stuck trying to grow our business from that same structure that we created at the beginning. And it'd be like trying to wear your 2-year-old shoes when you are 20 or 40. It's like, no, you have to upgrade. Like, you have to change. You have to look at what it is that you are now trying to do and how you're trying to serve, and then upgrade that.
And so each one of these stages of business can be looked at as kind of an individual little game.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, then creating strategies that are really aligned with who you are. And then having soul check-ins.
Right. This is I think, one of the most important parts, because you can design a strategy that today feels great, and by tomorrow, it could actually feel, ooh, we need to tweak that a little bit, or we're going to go here. And, most people aren't like a day today, like we're going to change it every day. But there is a really important piece of this soul check-in. Does this still feel good? Okay, then let's keep going. Does that still feel good? Okay, then let's keep going.
Totally, which is so important, because in the end, it's really trusting that your soul knows what's right for you.
And so today we decided to pick out one of those areas of business, because it's one that people often really struggle with. And we want to talk about a little bit of the game behind it.
Right. So we want to talk a little bit about marketing because most people tend to get shut down about marketing. And so, if you're willing to type on the chat, what are some strategies that you have heard that you're supposed to be doing in your business? And there's no right or wrong answer here. So feel free to put anything that, that you have heard that, oh, I got to do this and this and that. Networking. Okay. Awesome. More networking. Social media.
Yeah, lots of social media, all the social media, right? There's Facebook and there's LinkedIn and there's Twitter and there's
Instagram
and then there's new ones that keep showing up.
Yeah. Even social media that we don't know anything about.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
So there are certain and keep typing. Sometimes there's a little bit of a delay, so we'll keep looking at the chat. There's like typical mistakes that we make are things like we try to do everything all at once, right? And we try to think like, oh, well, I need to do this and this and this, and then all of a sudden, like, you feel so overwhelmed that then you don't really do anything at all, right? And you might relate to that. Or you actually are kind of one of those people that are like very much in action, and then you're like trying to do them all, and then you're like, right, dying.
Exactly. So we want to talk a little bit about the 4 different areas of marketing. And so this might help you break it down a little bit into the things that need to happen inside the game of marketing. And the first one is personal alignment. And these are the things that you do every day. And this is for most people who are angels in my system, love this. Actually, butterflies love this too. And it's that moment of sitting down and saying, okay, I'm going to meditate about my perfect and ideal clients. I am going to send energy and love to the people that I'm going to be calling today. All these are actually really valid and important parts of your marketing. And doing them every day is actually a really important part of your mindset. It's an important part of all of those things that are going to start shifting the things in your business. And what I see in marketing is some people stop there. And it's not the only thing.
Right.
Because we need you then to look at the other areas of business and design a plan around it.
So, and hopefully this, even just going through this, can help you understand that it's not just one or another. A lot of times we're like, oh, we hear people are like, oh, like, and this is not to put anybody down, right? But I'm just going to use this as an example. A lot of times, law of attraction, people are like, all you need to do is just visualize and believe that this is going to happen, right? Is that personal alignment piece. And then that's all, right? And the thing is, that is really, really important. And we totally believe you ought to be doing all of those things. And we also believe that that's not all that you need to be doing.
Right. And so the next one is loving on your people. This is the area of things that you do regularly for especially the people that have already shown up inside of your community. What are the strategies? And there are a lot of different strategies. I personally love sending personal cards in the mail. I like sending personal notes to people. I will acknowledge, different things that they're doing. I really love loving on people like that. That's a really great strategy. And yet, that can't be the only thing I do either, right? And there are certainly people who say that that's the only thing you need to do.
Right, totally. So then the next thing is, and I love this, is like being seen, building buzz. So there's 2 parts to that. One is it's the being part of like, how are you showing up? What is the energy in which you are showing up? Then allowing yourself to be seen, right? Because again, it's like, how in the world are people going to buy your products or services if they don't even know that they exist, right? And then building buzz about it, like getting some excitement about this thing that you are doing.
Right, which is generated out of that personal alignment. See, the personal alignment generates the energy to build buzz. Totally. Which makes it really easy then to do when you follow that game.
And then the last piece, and the way that it's worded here is launching programs, but I don't want you to think about it just like as a launching program in the traditional launch, but it's like, you know, how we launch a business, how we launch a product, how we launch our website, or, you know, it's actually taking the action to take the stuff out there into the world, right? And to say, here it is, I am ready. It might be imperfect, but it is there and I'm happy to do it. And, you know, I have a machine and I can collect payment and I am here to serve you, so to speak, right?
Right. And so that happens as it shows up energetically. And so can some of you see then the areas where you're strongest? Like most people have one of those that they're like, oh, I'm great at this. and you do that mostly. And is there another one that you need to play more in?
Mm-hmm. And do type it in the chat if you know, like if you feel like, yeah, I know that this is something that I'm very good at. And it's okay, you know, it's just kind of recognizing like, hey, I'm pretty good at this and I need to work on this a little bit more. I love people. Elaine, yes. I'm good at loving on people. Yeah, totally. That's
Beautiful.
awesome. That's awesome. Personal alignment, I'm good at. Launching programs, not so much. Okay.
Right. So yeah, so then it's about harnessing the power of that, the power of what you're really great at, and then use it over there. Yeah.
Awesome. And then, Anne, I can do any of them, but I'm not consistent. So for you, it might just be part of having the full alignment and creating a system so that you find the consistency within them. That's awesome. That's
beautiful.
Awesome.
Thanks so much for sharing.
Yeah.
So I want to share actually a story of my client Karen, who this is totally her thing. It's so perfect because she was struggling to get clients and totally brilliant. Like this is a brilliant person and she had a lot to offer, but she was thinking about lack of money all the time. Like this is where she lived in that kind of, you know, personal alignment space. She actually wasn't very good at that personal alignment piece. This was not where she spent time. She spent more time in like systems. She would build marketing calendars and she would she would do client abundance meditations, but she spent the bulk of her time in this kind of productivity. I can build you a marketing calendar, and she was in all of the social media platforms. She was like, wow. Okay, I was, you know, she wasn't Instagram, but she was LinkedIn, she was Facebook. She had a Facebook group. She had a Twitter feed. I don't know if she was doing YouTube or not, but it like totally was taking over her life. She wasn't making really any money at all. And it was very frustrating. You know, this is a really difficult place to be because she was overthinking, exhausted, overworked, and it just wasn't working. Yep. And so after we started working on, you know, aligning these kind of systems, she had actually built this this chart of all the different ways she was going to get clients. Like she had like 12 different ways. It was a beautiful chart. It honestly was. But we went through it intuitively and we went through each area and said, well, how does this one feel? And she's like, oh, I don't really like that one. I'm like, okay, we'll put an X through that. We're not doing it. Oh, how about this one? And at the end, we actually just had one little path that really, really lit her up, like in an extraordinary kind of way. And so now she has this regular flow of ideal clients, and she works when inspired on marketing and sales because she's found a really one-on-one love on your clients kind of way to find her clients. Her flow actually comes in a really non-traditional way. She's doing like these private parties that someone else is booking for her, and she shows up and she bought a van and she's going to travel all over the United States and do these really cool things. And she's selling just a very high-end product. Uh-huh. She has this flow now of words and images that work for her inside of social media when she's there. And it's really just this beautiful place because it's working. Just because she said, okay, what aligns with me?
Right. Which I think is huge. And of course, she's making the money.
She's making money, exactly. Woohoo!
So, Elaine, I just love, and so I want to just kind of give you this, is that you already intuitively were tuning in to so keenly about all the stuff that you also already answered the question to our play prompt, which is like really awesome, you know? So I just want to like just mention that because it's really great when you start noticing that synchronicity of like, oh, like she posted it even before we changed the page.
That's amazing.
So our exercise we call the soul alignment play prompt, and basically we want you to take a look at all of the things that you all posted that needed that you felt like you needed to do in regards of marketing, okay? And maybe there's a few other things that you want to add to your list, but it was like networking and social media and developing a list and email marketing. So interestingly, and like videos, you hadn't talked about it, okay? But so I want you to kind of notice that and maybe you write it down. I think this is important. I want you to write those things down in your piece of paper. And then I want you to add anything else that you feel like this is something that I should do, right? Or that I've heard that I need to do, or that I feel compelled to do. And I'm gonna give you actually how you can do this. We don't have the time to do it kind of in full mode right now, but I want to tell you how you could do this in full mode because this is literally kind of a play prompt activity that you could do any day. Okay, so ideally you have individual pieces of paper, and then you write one activity per piece of paper, and then you like flip them into your desk or table or whatever so that you have them spread out and you can see them. Okay. So if my hope is that you take this and then you start practicing. And so, but for today, right now, I want you to simply just put your finger on the first item. Okay. And I simply want you to like tune into the energy of how it feels for you to do that one thing. And just pay attention to your body, pay attention to your gut, how that feels, any sensations. Pay attention to your heart. And lastly, to your mind. Right? And some of you might have like put your finger on it and immediately gone like, oh. And some of you were like, oh, and just kind of felt like kind of that little jolt of excitement. Okay, so just pay attention. So if you felt anything that was constrictive or like, or like, okay, those are very explanatory. I know you know exactly what I mean by those things. Just put an X next to it. Okay, and then keep going down your list and basically doing the same thing. Okay, so then just kind of putting your finger on the next item and just kind of breathing in and tuning in and maybe imagining or visualizing yourself doing that activity, and then noticing how your body feels. And then just decide there's a check mark or an X, and then you go down the next. Now, another way to kind of, as you're going through this and you're doing your process, you could also kind of just pick it up or put your finger on it and be like, does this make me happy? Does it light me up? Right? And if the answer is yes, then you're going to put a big old check mark next to it. And if it's like, no, it doesn't, like I hate blah, blah, then you're going to put a X mark.
And then I'd like to note also that sometimes you don't know how. Like if you don't know how and then all of a sudden your mind starts putting all those things out there, it's okay. Leave the check mark by it. If you're like, it lights me up, but I don't know how, that's okay.
That's okay. Yeah, you don't need to know. And then, and then once you kind of figure out, and maybe you even ask, is there something else that I haven't considered that I need to add to the list? Like, if there's something that's not on the list that I need to add to, and then just write it down. And then take a moment and then just type in and see what it is that showed up for you, that you said, I love, this is Elaine, this is why I said, like, you answered that question even before we asked it. So this is a little beautiful confirmation of your intuition. And as you guys are taking the time to answer, your questions, I want to say, so this is something that it's true for you right now, right? And then you might need to do the same thing tomorrow and the next day and the next day. So it's a moment to moment thing. But ultimately, like I always say, that there's two things that you need to do to grow your business. Okay. We're giving you three, but like in the bigger scale, there's really only two. One is you need to be very good at doing what you do. Number two is you need to be very good at telling people that you're good at doing what you do, which is where the marketing stuff comes in. And this is where most of us tend to struggle, right? And so this is the reason why I'm asking. So when you start really connecting to you, you might actually come up with the solution. So when I first started my business and I knew nothing about doing business, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't even know what Facebook is and Twitter and Instagram. And like, I was so overwhelmed, and I asked so many people. And finally, the best advice I got was from a good friend of mine. And he said, do what you do best. Okay. He did not tell me do this or do that. He said, do what you do best. So I came home really thinking about it. And I just sat with myself and took some time. And I said, what is it that I do best? What is it that I really love doing and I do best? And ultimately it was just connect. And so I grew my entire brick and mortar practice this way. Okay, it wasn't Facebook, it wasn't Instagram, that all came after. But I just was like, connect. So I just started calling up people and having coffee and tea and lunch and getting to know them. And they got to know me. And then they would send me people. And then I would send them people. And then pretty soon, like, that's how all it grew, from just connecting. Okay? Which is why I say that at the core, I'm really a butterfly, even though I function a lot as a peacock. So we'd love to hear what it is that came up for you. And if there's a new thing that kind of showed up, and be like, I never even thought about that. And we're going to keep going just for time's sake, but we're going to keep an eye on your.
Yeah. So the first one was creating a high performance mindset.
Second one was opening to your intuition in the easiest possible way, which was?
Play.
Okay.
Play. And align your business with your soul's strategy. And I put this little graphic there because it's like a little game board, because that's my soul strategy.
Right. So it's always about play, right?
Yes.
So of course, while we share with you as much as we could in the time that we had, it's kind of the tip of the iceberg. There is so much more that we can share. And there's usually a little bit of a problem.
Because most struggle with implementing these kind of things without a map or support and some accountability.
Which is usually most of us, okay? Like, let's face it. Like, maybe there's like 2% of people that are like, okay, great, I got it. I'm going to go do it. No problem. And then the rest of us, we kind of need all the other stuff, right? Like, we need a coach, or we need a mastermind, or we need both.
Exactly. So let us ask you a couple questions. What is the cost of staying stuck?
So if you think about, just really consider, like, what does your business look like right now? And for those of you that have started, if you've started and you're struggling with it, or if you haven't started, if you're like, I just keep thinking about it, but not really doing much.
And then conversely, what does your life look like? What is it like right now? Are you happy and totally satisfied and fulfilled with where you're at right now?
And how long have you been wanting something different, but you were kind of terrified of taking action, or just overwhelmed by the prospect? There's something really interesting that I've heard from people, and I don't know if you guys would relate to this, is that they say, I've seen how hard other people have worked to be successful in their business. And that's terrifying. I don't want to have to be working that hard.
Indeed. And this is for people who really have been in their business maybe for a little while, who've been working and hustling to the point where you feel like you might drown.
Which, I mean, a lot of times people say, like, I just feel like I just need to keep paddling to stay above water, right? And this is kind of a big one because I think a lot about how much money I spent in my college education. And of course, I don't expect all of you to have gone to school for as long as I did, but most of us spent at least some time in college or, community college or trade school or getting some kind of coaching certification or some other thing like that. And think about how much money, time, energy, effort you spent on that. But then they never really taught you how to apply those skills to become free. And what I mean by that is that I feel like while college is incredibly valuable, it usually is training us to go work for somebody else, right? It's training us to now be a good employee. But true freedom really only comes when you get to own your own business and being the boss. So a lot of times we think about like, so really how long can you afford to actually stay in that same place, in that same struggle? Or if you're a job, staying at this job, feeling stuck and unfulfilled and unappreciated like I was.
Exactly. Or feeling overwhelmed and confused inside your business like I did, because I thought I could figure it out.
Or spinning your wheels and not achieving the results that you want.
And not having support or mentoring, or making mistakes that cost you lots of time, energy, and money. I can say in creating games, oh yeah.
Well, I mean, and this is a big one too, because, and I'll share from my perspective. For a long time, I felt like, I just need to figure it out. I'll just do it on my own. But instead, I was trying to reinvent the wheel, and I made a lot of mistakes that really cost me so much time, energy, and money that could have been saved. I mean, I mentioned this earlier, but I think it's a really great example of Kimberly was really smart in that she invested in herself in getting mentoring and coaching. So she achieved in a year and a half what took me almost 7 years, and it kind of highlights to me this is what happens when you actually have the support of somebody that's been there done that.
Right. Keep pretending you're moving in the right direction when in reality you're moving in circles. Okay, that's a butterfly place to be.
Wait, I recognize this spot. We've been here before. Or just simply be dependent on someone else to provide for you, hoping that they won't fire you, the next time that you mess something up or something like that, which is
or next layoffs come around, yeah.
Right, which is kind of scary.
So if you're thinking, I've had enough of working my tail off without seeing results, we have something really, really exciting, because we want to talk about how will this year be different? How will the next 12 months from now be totally different?
So, if you can imagine you just being at your best and highest self and really experience that expanded self, right? Where you are having more success, more abundance, and feeling really on top of your game.
In a way that releases that struggle or hardship or hustle.
And, you're making the best choices in a simple, easy, aligned way because you're listening to your intuition.
and learning to actually rewire and repattern your mind, and learning the neuroscience of success as a byproduct of all that.
Right. And then creating, of course, the business systems that are easy and fun.
Yeah, that makes business easier. Absolutely. And implementing effectively, and of course, making the money you really wanted to make.
So just like Anne said, and I'm going to, a lot of times, you might notice yeah, I'm good at those things, so I can do that, but I'm not implementing consistently or effectively, right? And then that's what's getting in the way, which I think that that's a really important thing. It's not always, not or yes.
So we have designed a cool course called the Intuitive Business Manifestation course. It is a unique class designed just for you.
And this is a course that was inspired really by our retreat attendees of what we were hearing that they wanted to generate and create in their lives. And so, this is a beautiful example of the synergy that happens with like loving our clients and then, learning from them and then collaborating, because it was what we saw that they really wanted and needed. And we said, if this is something you want to do, then we'll do it. And there was enough of them that said, yes, I want to do it, that we're like, great, let's do this and let's offer it and open it up to other people to join the journey.
Right. So it is truly the only solution designed with all these accelerators built in, which is that neuroscience of success, money, and sales.
Your intuitive connection.
And aligned and practical business strategies.
Which is huge. So are you with us? You want to keep hearing about it? Just, let us know. We want to know that you're still with us. And so here's what it includes.
So we are, and just to acknowledge your time, we acknowledge that we are at 90 minutes now, and we have probably about 10 more minutes of content to share with you.
And we'll try to go zippy, and then if you have questions, then we'll be here, okay? We're not like in a hurry to leave, but we would just want to be acknowledging you. So obviously that entire year of support and training will have specific instruction that is addressing each of these pieces, right? The neuroscience of success, intuitive guidance, aligned business strategy and marketing.
And this is the game. So we're looking at bi-weekly brain hacks, affirmations, guided meditations, EFT tapping to break your patterns, but we've actually put it inside of a game. And so each area actually has a game board, because that's what I'm all about.
And because it's so much better and easier when you're playing.
And so then it also includes quarterly, we'll be having business expansion calls as well, to really not just teach you those things, but to have a space for that deeper expansion.
Mm-hmm. She mentioned the game boards and creativity and games. And then we're also going to give you access to this amazing platform that's called the Productivity Playground. And it's a space where you get to connect with others and also connect with us and let us know how you're doing, so that you feel like you have accountability in a fun and playful way. Right.
And inside of a tight-knit community, because that deep support really is what is needed to move forward in a powerful and quick way.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So you'll get used to the fact that, working with artists, you are going to get some really fun guides and handouts and all kinds of amazing things. And how we'll deliver it is that we will meet live twice per month.
Half of that time is training and half of the time is coaching and mentoring.
And this, for those of you that did Intuitive Advantage with us, and I'm going to say this, is that Jean and I noticed that for some people, it was hard to stay on top of watching the training and the modules ahead of time, but that usually people were really excited to show up for the calls. And so in order to make it easier and smoother, we decided, let's not have people have to try to watch modules ahead of time. We'll just deliver the content inside of our call, and then we can spend the next time, like half the other time, doing coaching and mentoring, which can make it a little bit more integrated and easier to consume.
Beautiful. Yeah. So, and of course we mentioned the Productivity Playground, as well as the private membership and additional resources that come along with all of that.
And then, Jean talked about the quarterly business calls. So how
you will,
exactly are you going to profit from this stuff?
Yeah, so this actually gives you a little glimpse into the overview of our game board for this. It shows those 7 areas that we talked about. Actually, we gave a glimpse of at the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
and it really allows us to step mindfully through each one of these areas, which is that high performing mindset, activating your intuition through business in your business through play.
Then really like creating a vision, really seeing and feeling your highest self possibilities before you step into creation, which is like where you get to create products and services that are really magnetic and they're 100% you.
Exactly. And then moving into that then intuitive marketing so that it is also magnetic.
And then feeling good about selling. So and again, the piece about mindset, you will probably see this weaved all the way through, because as we go through some modules, then we recognize that there's some things that we need to clear for people to feel like, okay, now we need to clear some receiving or abundance, or so that you can feel really good selling and receiving money and collecting payment and all of those things that involve receiving money.
Exactly. And then finally, support systems. These are the things that you put in place that make your business more easy and more fun and more flowy.
So that you get to profit. Yeah.
Enjoying those fruits of your love, labor, and high vibration.
So we want to just kind of give you a quick overview of what the value of this is, and then what the investment looks like. So the program is going to begin May 9th. The twice a month training, where we're actually going to be like teaching you like the nuts and bolts in a way that it's easy for you to consume and be able to go and make it happen. Okay. Then we're going to obviously do group coaching and masterminding so that you get to support one another and contribute your expertise and all of that stuff.
Those 4 creative business expansion calls with a value of around $4,000. Mm-hmm. And as well as the step-by-step guidance and support. That's really priceless. We couldn't even come up with a price on that one.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know. I cannot give a price, point to that. It's kind of priceless. We're not overwhelming. We want to try to make it easy for you to follow up. This is going to be so much fun. Yes, it's going to. The marketing game plan. Now we valued at $6,000, but many of you know that both marketing and business game plans that you will be easily spend a lot more than that. Like other people will charge you a lot more than that to be able to create that.
All the handouts, worksheets, and templates, the activities, exercises, and meditations, community accountability in the productivity playground. And this is actually a bonus that we're putting in there as part of this, which is our 3-day live retreat, which we couldn't be more excited about.
And we'll talk a little bit more about it, but it's like it's actually hard to describe how powerful and magical our retreat was. And so, it was so amazing and so fun and so magical. And so our thought is like, we want to recreate that with a focus on business and manifesting. So all of this is roughly about a value of $50,600. Now, I paid about $25,000 for a mastermind that gave me about half of what we're giving you. And really the price that we're charging is $598 a month, which is like just barely over a tenth of that,
Yeah, I'm really excited about that. And so, of course, you're going to get all those things that we talked about here in graphic form for you to see all the pictures. I know.
For those of you that are a little more concrete and want to know, like, what are those things so here's the things, right? And then you can see them. Now, you are going to make your investment back at least 10 times over, and probably a lot more as you practice the principles. So if you want to join us, here's the link. And Jean, if you can post it on the chat, feel free. And of course, if there's questions that you have for us, feel free to ask them. And because Jean and I are very generous, we also have some bonuses that we want to tell you about. So a few of these bonuses. The first one is going to be a cash infusion training, 50 ways to raise your funds right now. Because we know that sometimes money is a thing that shows up and we feel like, oh my gosh, like I'm going to invest and I don't know if I'm going to get my money back, blah, blah, blah. And so we want to do this very, very early on so that you learn all ways in which you can raise funds that may or may not be related to your business, that can give you the power to know that you can create and raise funds.
Right. So this is a manifesting quick cash infusion.
The next one is also a pricing for profit workshop. And I'm going to ask Jean to talk about it because
okay, as your voice goes away. So the pricing for profit workshop and is a workshop that allows you to really set your pricing up in a way that allows your business to be sustainable. And this is the thing that we often see people at the beginning of their business not aligning to a profitable business plan or a business structure that will allow them to actually make money and have a sustainable business. So we're really excited to offer this near the beginning of this year long as well, so that you can actually set up into a profitable business.
And we'll actually do this probably around the time that we're in the creation stage, because usually we want to figure out what it is that you're creating and then, figure out how you're going to price it and that kind of thing. So, but it really helps us to really start looking at what's the mindset around it, and then how you strategize, timing, and all of those things.
The next one is actually a really cool program that Elena built, and it is a blueprint file that you can work through yourself, that you basically fill out the worksheets, and it shows you and outlines specific ways to generate multi-six figures in your business. So it allows you to really see in graphic form, so for someone who really loves spreadsheets like I do, it's that kind of feeling, but much prettier and not as intimidating as a spreadsheet. And allows you to really create that. It's a beautiful bonus.
And then, of course, our 3-day live retreat. This is a picture of our last retreat, just, people being involved in the creative process, which doesn't really capture the magic, but we wanted to just kind of give you a little glimpse of,
We usually run that retreat in the fall sometime or late fall. So we will get timing on that coming up pretty soon. We like to poll everyone and see what will work.
Yeah, absolutely. And then for fast action takers, that means like if you end up registering today, then we're also gonna include our Quantum Leap Your Results. It's a 7-module course to optimize your productivity, focus, and results. And this is a lovely course because it is easy to consume. The modules are short and very targeted with specific practices, and it's really easy for you to feel that you are making progress quickly. So it's a lovely course. So again, we're just going to kind of review all of the things that we're including, and then we're just adding the bonuses that we are giving you so that you can kind of see basically the value of all of what we are giving you is around 5,400.
Thousand.
Now, I want to help you understand like the value of this and how this came to be, because Gina and I started talking about it and we said we are so lucky that we get to have our own businesses and have the freedom to really trust that we can create any kind of money that we need or want. And we were like, wouldn't it be awesome for everybody to get to experience that? Which is in essence what we're going to be teaching you. It's like the nuts and bolts of how you do it, but also like be able to like trust that now like this is the thing that once you know how to do and you do it, you cannot unlearn, right? So what you can make is like endless, right? And then you get that freedom and autonomy. Now, we actually have an early bird price that it's $4.98 a month. And that ends today.
It does. And we were trying to say, can we extend that longer? We really want to make sure that we're serving the people that have already registered in this course. And so we are starting May 9th. Mm-hmm. And so early bird goes through today, $4.98 a month. After today, it'll be $5.98 a month. Mm-hmm. And we will be continuing to market this to the greater audience. So you can feel like you're the insider circle now. Totally.
And we also have, like, this is not included in here. I'm just going to show you the graphics of all the things that you get, the meditations and the handouts and all of the nifty little things, your marketing plans and game boards and the productivity playground. But that the beauty of this is that if you also decide that this is something that you want to do, and then you have some friends that you want them to join along with you, like, like Jean was like, hey, I'm going to this dream workshop. Do you want to come with me? And I'm like, that sounds fun. Okay, I'll come with you. Right. So if you have friends that you want to, bring along for the ride, because it's just so much funner to create with friends, if you share the link and then let them know, put my name when you register, then we actually will give you some money back to you. So, hey, everybody wins.
Exactly. It's a good thing. It is a very good thing. And so within that, we invite you from our hearts to join us in this year-long journey. We really, truly are so excited to spend a year together to really solidly launch your business. This isn't a fly-by-night, this is like, I'm going to have a business that works.
And to come play with us, right? Because we're kind of fun as we
are fun.
do stuff. So we want you to be able to really experience what's it like to be creating this from a place of fun and play and ease, rather than this like, oh my gosh, it needs to happen and, blah, blah. So, so if you have any questions, we'd love to hear the questions. Feel free to post them on the chat.
You can also contact us directly, of course, if you have some, like when we're offline, and you can absolutely email or private message on Facebook, ping us in whatever way you know how to find us.
So, we invite you to also like tune into your body, and notice, like, notice both the excitement. Like sometimes we feel the right thing. It just kind of feels a little bit like, some people say it's anxiety, because you might feel your heart all of a sudden beating faster. That's what happens to me. And every time that I'm like, oh, like, I just know that that's the thing that I need to do, because it's really expansive. Some people feel it on their belly, into your body, and feel like if this is calling you and feeling exciting, we'd love to have you just trust it and just go and register. And then, if you're kind of like, yeah, I don't know, and you're kind of sitting on the edge, or there's stuff that's coming up, then we want to hear about what that is, and get to have a conversation with you. So, if you know this is the thing for you, just go register, like, bye-bye, just go and register. We want you to put your name on the thing, and then we'll send you the gift. If you are feeling kind of on the fence, then we want you to we want to kind of help you see how this is actually going to support you and help you, right? So it's going to help you discover that brilliant business idea to make money doing what you love with intuition and creativity. So some of you already have a sense of what you might want to do. Some of you are like, I know I want to do something, but I don't know what it is. It's okay. We're going to help you do that.
And so it's going to help you also design a consistent and sustainable source of income.
Obviously, establish a prosperity mindset that can also weather setbacks and overwhelming situations. And then release those negative patterns that are holding you back from showing up as your best self.
And then feel great about offering your idea through enlightened invitations, intuitive marketing, and feel good selling.
And then feel the support that you're going to get from everybody else.
Now, why do I have an echo all of a sudden?
I don't know.
Okay, is it just me? Okay, cool. So this is not for you, though, if you're truly happy with the income you are currently making in your business.
Or if you're simply looking for a good excuse not to step into your greater purpose.
Or if you are unwilling to take action to be accountable, not to us, but to you,
Right.
to take it to your biggest dream to make that happen.
So if that's any of you, then that's not for you. If you align with this, then this is for you if you're actually a heart-centered explorer and seeker. And we say seeker because we want people who are open, willing, seeking, and on the edge of the next big thing, and you just can't seem to reach it, or you're not really know what that is.
And you want to unlock the power of your creativity and get in the flow.
Break through internal barriers.
And crave more fun, ease, and joy.
Both in your business and your life. Or if you just really finally want to make money doing what you love, right?
Exactly. So this is different. So I love this quote because this is how this whole course is different. This describes it all. Scientists have recently determined that it takes approximately 400 repetitions to create a new synapse in the brain, unless it's done with play, in which case it takes 10 to 20 repetitions.
Easy. Faster.
Yep.
More direct, right?
Exactly.
We also want to talk a little bit about money, because money tends to show up as kind of excuses. And we want you to think about money as actually a green energy exchange. And often we use it a lot as an excuse for inaction. And it seems to be kind of like a socially accepted excuse. But a lot of times pinching pennies becomes a kiss of death for our businesses, because then we immediately get into that scarcity place. Like, how many times do you say I can't afford blah, blah, blah. Right?
And then skimping extends the misery and dilutes your power. And worse, it keeps you from the full expression of being fully you.
And if you think about Jean's story about how like she was like adding up all the stuff in her cart, like the working memory and the stress that creates all the time, it's part of what dilutes your power. And like now you're not fully present to really do the thing that you do, right? Because you're worried about stuff. So in the long run, it actually decreases your chances of success and increases the chances that you're going to give up altogether. So we talked at the very beginning that 2 out of 3 businesses fail, and they happen within the first 5 years of business, right? Because it is during that time that people usually give up when they don't really have the right support.
And of course, the saddest part is that then the world doesn't get you. It doesn't get to experience your gifts that because you allowed this to get in your way.
Totally. Which, it is just little. Now, this is really important. Often when you say yes and you commit, things sort of start realigning and then things start showing up. But we need to say yes and commit to things before, right? Because a lot of times I hear people are like, well, if this happens, then I will blah, blah, blah. Then they're not really fully stepping into full commitment and trust, right? Like, so much of how we manifest is that we need to trust. We need to trust ourselves and we need to say yes. And in the saying yes is how we begin to open up that energy flow. So you have a unique opportunity to choose. We're not going to twist your arm. You get to choose.
Exactly. And it's not like you're subjected to a world of misery if you don't do this. Of course, you'll do what you do. Mm-hmm. And yet we know with support and community that we can just help you do it faster.
And easier and funner.
Yeah, indeed.
So here's a few details that we forgot to mention. Calls are going to happen in the evenings and the special trainings probably on Saturday mornings. And we did this very specifically because we knew that some of you are still having real jobs or having jobs in the mornings. And so we wanted to support you being able to continue with your job and then not interfering with that.
And we're purposely keeping this as a small group so we can provide really quality mentorship and support each one of you.
So this is not a fake thing. We're just currently about half filled. So if this is appealing to you, then really don't overthink it and then just go get your spot, because obviously we don't know how fast or not fast, right? So we're just kind of telling you where things are at, super honestly.
Right. So this is the spot where you listen to your heart. You trust you. And you take advantage of this amazing opportunity because it's calling.
Mm-hmm. And if it's not calling you, then that's okay, right? Like we honor that. Now, and this is a big if, because people are like, oh, well, maybe next year. Like, so I want to remind you, we created this because we actually had a group of people that were, yes, we want to do this and we're interested. So we don't know if we're going to run this again. We might, but we actually don't know. And if we do run it again next year, then the price is likely going to be double or triple what it is now, just because you could see how much value we are actually providing for you.
Exactly. So are you ready? Ready to embrace that freedom, fun, prosperity? Woohoo! Take the rocket.
So if you really are ready, to embrace all of that, then just join us, right? Here's the link. Again, the course is not closing today. It will still be open until May 9th. It's just that today will be the last day where you can access it for the early bird price, which is $100 less each month, which is $100 less total, right? So it's kind of significant. Yeah. So midnight. I nobody typed this question, but I kind of heard this question like, okay, today when? So midnight. At midnight
Pacific Coast time.
Yes. So if you stayed with us until now, I want you guys to type your name, and actually, like, if you've responded, I'll get your name, and then I will.
Got you.
If you have been here and you just haven't participated and haven't typed stuff in the chat, then I want you to actually type your name and say, I'm still here, because we're just going to send it. I'm going to send it from my email to you directly. So I just want to know who to send stuff to.
Yes. So we see you. We see you.
Yeah. So, just type it in there and let us know. So if you have any questions, let us know what they are. Like, we want to hear it. We want to support you. Obviously, if you want to chat with either of us, we're available for that, but it's usually helpful to answer the questions in the context of the group. So if anything is popping up that we haven't already mentioned and covered, type it in, and we'll wait a little because we know that there's a little bit of a delay. And if not, then, we hope that we get to see you on the other side and that you join us and that we get to play.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm not seeing any questions, so I think that we covered it all. So, and again, if you do, feel free to reach out, and we'd love to have you. And we send you all our love. Apparently that was the theme, so we send you all our love, and talk to you soon.
All right. Bye.